What happens when two of Hollywood's most beloved personalities sit down for what should be a lighthearted chat? But instead, the conversation takes a sharp turn into territory neither of them expected. What starts as friendly banter quickly unravels into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Before we get into what went down, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below telling us what you think really caused this clash. The energy in the studio feels warm and inviting. As Valerie Bertinelli walks onto the set, Drew Barrymore greets her with that signature enthusiasm she's known for. Arms open wide, pulling Valerie into a hug that seems genuine enough. The audience applauds, and for a moment, everything appears perfectly normal. Two women who've been in the public eye for decades, both navigating the complexities of fame, divorce, and reinvention. On paper, this should be an easy conversation. Drew settles into her chair, crossing her legs and leaning forward with that curious expression she always has. Valerie, it is so good to have you here. I feel like we have so much to talk about. Valerie smiles, but there's something slightly guarded in her eyes. Thanks for having me, Drew. I'm happy to be here. So, Drew begins, her voice taking on that confessional tone she uses when she wants to dig deeper. I have to say, I've been following your journey, especially over the last few years. You've been so open about everything you've gone through, the divorce, the self-discovery, the cookbooks. It's been really inspiring to watch. Thank you. Valerie responds, her smile still in place, but not quite reaching her eyes. It's been a journey, that's for sure. Drew nods enthusiastically. And I think what I love most is how honest you've been. Like, you don't hold back. You put it all out there. The good, the bad, the messy. I think people really connect with that. Well, Valerie says carefully, I think when you've lived as long as we have and been through what we've been through, there's no point in pretending everything is perfect. Life is messy. People appreciate authenticity. Absolutely. Drew agrees, and then she pauses. That pause that talk show hosts do when they're about to pivot into something more pointed. And speaking of authenticity, I want to ask you about something because I think it's fascinating. You've talked a lot about body image, about your relationship with food, about feeling like you were never enough. And I wonder, do you think that some of that came from the industry, or was it more internal? Valerie's expression shifts slightly. It's subtle, but it's there. A tightening around the mouth, a brief flicker in her eyes. I think it's both. She says, the industry definitely has impossible standards, especially for women. But I also think we internalize those messages and make them our own. So, it becomes hard to separate what's external pressure and what's your own voice. Drew leans in even closer, right? But here's what I'm curious about. You were on a sitcom for years. You were America's sweetheart. And then you've talked about feeling like you disappeared for a while. Do you think you put too much pressure on yourself to maintain that image? Like, was it really the industry? Or was it you holding yourself to a standard that maybe wasn't realistic? There's a beat of silence. Valerie's jaw tenses slightly. I think that's a complicated question, Drew. When you're young and you're told that your value is tied to how you look and how likable you are, it's not really a choice. You don't wake up one day and decide to put pressure on yourself. It's something that's built into the system. Sure, Drew says, nodding quickly. But you also made choices, right? I mean, we all make choices. And I'm just wondering if looking back, you feel like maybe you could have been kinder to yourself, or if you feel like you needed to go through all of that to get where you are now. Valerie's smile is gone now. Drew, I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at. Are you asking if I think my suffering was necessary? Drew seems to realize she's touched a nerve, but instead of backing off, she doubles down in that way that feels like she's trying to be relatable, but comes across as tone-deaf. No. I'm just saying, like, sometimes we create our own narratives, and I'm wondering if the narrative you've been telling about your life is the whole story, or if maybe there's another perspective. Valerie's posture changes. She sits up straighter, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. Another perspective, Drew, this is my life. These are my experiences. I'm not creating a narrative. I'm sharing what actually happened to me. Of course, Drew says quickly, and I'm not discounting that at all. I just think it's interesting how we all remember things differently, and sometimes when we're in pain we see things through a certain lens, and I'm wondering if now with some distance you see things differently. The tension in the room is palpable now. The audience has gone quiet, sensing that this is no longer a friendly chat. Valerie's voice is measured but firm. Drew, I've done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of work on myself. I'm very clear about what happened to me and how it affected me. And I don't appreciate the implication that I'm somehow misremembering or exaggerating my own experiences. Drew's eyes widen slightly, and she puts her hands up in a defensive gesture. I'm not saying that at all. I'm really not. I'm just trying to have a deeper conversation about how we process trauma and how we tell our stories. I think it's important. It is important, Valerie says, her voice rising slightly, which is why I'm careful about how I talk about it, and I'm not interested in being psychoanalyzed on your show. Drew, I came here to talk about my cookbook. My life now, not to be questioned about whether my trauma was real enough or processed correctly. The air feels heavy. Drew tries to recover, her voice taking on a soothing quality. Valerie. Drew shifts in her seat, and there's something in her expression that suggests she's not quite ready to let this go. Okay, I hear you. I do. But can I just say one more thing about this, because I think it's relevant? Valerie's lips press into a thin line. Go ahead. I've been really open about my own struggles. Drew begins. And there's an edge to her voice now. Something defensive creeping in. I've talked about my childhood, my parents, the addiction, all of it. And what I've learned is that sometimes we hold on to our pain because it becomes part of our identity. And I'm just wondering if maybe, and I'm asking this with love, if maybe you've held on to some of that pain longer than you needed to. The silence that follows is deafening. Valerie stares at Drew with an expression that's somewhere between disbelief and anger. Excuse me. Drew seems to sense she's crossed a line, but instead of apologizing, she continues. I'm just saying that I've seen you talk about the same things over and over. The divorce, the body image issues, the feeling of not being enough. And at some point, don't you think it's time to move past it? To really let it go and step into who you are now without dragging all of that with you. Valerie's voice is ice cold now. Drew, you don't get to tell me when I'm done processing my trauma. You don't get to decide that I've talked about something too much or that I should just move on. Everyone heals at their own pace, and frankly, the fact that you think you can sit here and tell me how I should be handling my life is incredibly presumptuous. I'm not telling you how to handle your life. Drew protests, her voice rising. I'm having a conversation. I'm asking questions. Isn't that what we do on this show? We have real conversations. Real conversations require respect. Valerie shoots back. And what you're doing right now isn't respectful. You're sitting in judgment of my healing process, and you're doing it under the guise of curiosity or concern. But what it really feels like is that you think you've figured something out about me that I haven't figured out about myself. And that's condescending. Drew's face flushes. I don't think that at all. I think you're an incredibly strong, intelligent woman. But I also think that sometimes when we're in the public eye, we get stuck in certain patterns because that's what people expect from us. And I'm wondering if you feel that pressure. Of course I feel pressure. Valerie says, her voice sharp. But that pressure doesn't negate the validity of what I've been through. And it doesn't mean that I'm performing my trauma for an audience. This is my life, Drew. These are real things that happened to me. And I get to talk about them as much or as little as I want without someone questioning whether I'm doing it right. Drew takes a breath, and when she speaks again, her tone has shifted to something that sounds almost wounded. You know what, Valerie? I think you're being really defensive right now, and I'm not sure why. I'm on your side. I've always been on your side. I'm just trying to have an honest conversation with you. An honest conversation would involve you actually listening to what I'm saying instead of pushing your own agenda. Valerie responds. You keep saying you're curious, but what you're really doing is projecting your own experience onto mine. Just because you dealt with your pain in a certain way doesn't mean that's the right way for everyone. I'm not projecting. Drew insists. And now there's a tremor in her voice that suggests she's genuinely upset. I'm trying to connect with you. I thought we could have a real moment here, something meaningful. But instead you're shutting down and acting like I'm attacking you. Valerie lets out a short, humorless laugh. Drew, you literally just told me that I'm holding on to my pain as part of my identity and that I need to move on. How is that not an attack? Because I'm saying it with love. Drew says, and there's desperation in her voice now. I'm saying it because I care. Because I see you struggling and I want you to be free. I am free. Valerie says firmly. And I don't need you to save me or fix me. I'm doing just fine on my own. What I need is for you to respect my journey and not try to rewrite it to fit your narrative of what healing should look like. The audience is completely silent now. You can feel the discomfort radiating through the room. Drew's producer is probably losing their mind in the control booth, wondering how to salvage this train wreck. Drew tries one more time, her voice softer now. Valerie, I'm sorry if I've upset you. That was never my intention. I really do admire you, and I think you've done incredible work. I just wanted to have a deeper conversation. A deeper conversation is fine. Valerie says, her voice still tight with barely controlled anger. But what you're doing is not that. You're interrogating me. You're questioning my choices, my healing, my truth. And I don't know if you realize this, but that's exactly the kind of thing that keeps women stuck. We're told that we're too emotional, that we're too sensitive, that we need to get over things faster. And when we don't, we're accused of wallowing or making it our identity. Drew's mouth opens and closes. That's not what I'm saying. But it is. Valerie insists. Maybe you don't mean it that way, but that's how it's landing. And the fact that you can't see that, the fact that you keep defending yourself instead of just acknowledging that you've hurt me, that tells me everything I need to know about this conversation. Drew's eyes are glassy now, and her voice cracks slightly. I just wanted to help. I thought we could connect over our shared experiences. Our experiences aren't the same. Valerie says quietly but firmly. And that's okay, but you can't use your experience as a measuring stick for mine. That's not fair, and it's not helpful. Drew nods slowly, and for a moment it seems like maybe she's finally getting it. But then she says, I still think there's something here that you're not seeing. I think there's a reason you're reacting so strongly to this. Valerie's eyes widen. Are you serious right now? I'm just saying if you weren't still holding on to something, this conversation wouldn't be triggering you so much. Drew's face registers shock as Valerie rises from her chair. Wait, what? Valerie, sit down. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Valerie says, her voice steady, despite the anger clearly coursing through her. You're not listening to me. You're not hearing what I'm saying. And I'm not going to sit here and be told that my reaction to being disrespected is proof that I'm the problem. Drew stands up, reaching out toward Valerie. Please don't leave. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're running away instead of staying and working through this. Valerie stops and turns back, and the look on her face is one of pure incredul. Running away, Drew. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference. I don't have to sit here and be psychoanalyzed by someone who clearly thinks they have all the answers. I don't think I have all the answers, Drew says, her voice breaking slightly. But I do think we could learn something from each other if you would just give me a chance. If you would just be open to what I'm trying to say. I've been open, Valerie counters. I've been more than patient, but you keep pushing and pushing. And when I tell you that you're crossing a line, you tell me that I'm being defensive or that I'm triggered. Do you not see how manipulative that is? The word manipulative hangs in the air like a bomb. Drew's face goes pale. Manipulative? I am not being manipulative. I'm being honest. I'm being vulnerable with you. No, Valerie says firmly. You're using vulnerability as a weapon. You're framing your criticism as concern. And when I push back, you act like I'm the one being unreasonable. That's textbook manipulation, whether you realize it or not. Drew's hands are shaking now, and there are tears in her eyes. I can't believe you're saying this to me. I invited you onto my show. I've been nothing but supportive of you. And now you're standing here calling me manipulative in front of my audience. You invited me onto your show and then proceeded to invalidate my experiences, Valerie says, her voice rising. You don't get credit for being supportive when the support comes with conditions. When it comes with the expectation that I'll process my trauma the way you think I should. That's not fair. That's not fair, Drew protests. I never said there were conditions. I just wanted to have a real conversation. A deep conversation. The kind of conversations I have with people all the time on this show. Maybe the problem is that you think every conversation needs to go deep, Valerie shoots back. Maybe sometimes people just want to be heard without being dissected. Maybe sometimes the kindest thing you can do is take someone at their word instead of digging for some hidden meaning or unresolved issue. Drew wipes at her eyes, smearing her makeup. I'm a talk show host, Valerie. My job is to ask questions. My job is to get to the heart of things. If you didn't want to have a real conversation, why did you agree to come on? I agreed to come on because I thought we were going to talk about my work, my life now, the positive things I'm doing, Valerie says. I didn't sign up to be your therapy patient. And the fact that you think this is what a real conversation looks like is actually really concerning. The audience is watching this unfold like spectators at a car crash. Some people are whispering to each other, others are filming on their phones, despite the rules against it. This is the kind of television moment that people will be talking about for weeks, maybe years. Drew takes a step toward Valerie, her voice pleading. Now, can we please just sit down and start over? I clearly said something wrong, and I want to make it right, but I can't do that if you leave. You can't make it right by starting over, Valerie says. You can make it right by acknowledging that you over. By admitting that you don't actually know what's best for me or how I should be handling my life. By respecting the fact that I'm the expert on my own experience. I do respect that, Drew insists. I swear I do. But I also think that sometimes we need people to challenge us, to push us out of our comfort zones. That's how we grow. Valerie shakes her head slowly. There's a difference between challenging someone and belittling them. And what you've done today is belittle me. You've suggested that I'm stuck, that I'm holding on to pain unnecessarily, that my reactions are proof of some unresolved issue. That's not challenging, Drew. That's judgment. I'm not judging you, Drew says, and now she sounds almost angry herself. God, I'm so tired of people accusing me of judging them when all I'm trying to do is connect. I put myself out there every single day. I'm vulnerable. I'm open. I share everything. And this is what I get for it. This isn't about you, Valerie says sharply. This is about me and how you've treated me today. But of course, you're making it about yourself. Of course, you're the victim now. Drew's jaw drops. I'm not playing victim. I'm defending myself. You're the one who's attacking me. I'm not attacking you, Valerie says, exasperated. I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference. But clearly you're so used to everyone telling you how wonderful and authentic you are that you can't handle it when someone calls you out. The tension has shifted now. What started as Valerie defending herself has turned into both of them feeling attacked. Drew's voice is tight and controlled. You know what, Valerie? Maybe you're right. Maybe I did overstep. But maybe you're also so defensive about your past that you can't handle anyone questioning anything about it. Maybe you've built your entire identity around being a victim, and that's why you're so threatened by this conversation. The gasp from the audience is audible. Even Drew seems to realize she's gone too far, her hand immediately flying to her mouth. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. But it's too late. Valerie's face has gone completely cold. Yes, you did. You absolutely meant that. And you know what? That right there is exactly what I've been talking about. You've been thinking that this entire time, and now it's finally come out. You think I'm playing victim. You think I'm making my trauma my identity. And instead of just having the courage to say that from the beginning, you've been dancing around it, pretending to be. Concerned, pretending to care. I do care, Drew says desperately. I care so much. That's why this is so hard. If you cared, you wouldn't have said what you just said, Valerie responds. Drew reaches out again, her hand trembling. Valerie, please. I said I'm sorry. Can we please just talk about this like adults? Valerie's laugh is bitter. Like adults, Drew. Adults don't get to say horrible things and then act like an apology erases them. You just told me on national television that I've built my identity around being a victim. Do you understand how damaging that is? Do you understand that you just did exactly what you've been accusing me of being too sensitive about? I was upset, Drew says weakly. You were attacking me and I lashed out. I'm human. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Valerie agrees. But your mistake revealed what you really think about me, and that's something I can't unhear. You've been sitting here this entire time thinking that I'm playing victim, that I'm milking my trauma, and instead of being honest about that judgment from the start, you dressed it up as concern and curiosity. Drew's voice rises in frustration. Because I was trying to be kind. I was trying to approach it gently, but you wouldn't let me. You kept shutting me down and accusing me of things I wasn't doing. You weren't being kind, Valerie says firmly. You were being passive-aggressive. There's nothing kind about questioning someone's truth while pretending you're just having a conversation. If you had a problem with how I talk about my life, you should have just said it directly instead of this entire charade. It wasn't a charade, Drew insists. I genuinely wanted to understand. I wanted to connect with you, but you came in here with your walls up, and you never gave me a real chance. Valerie's eyes narrow. I came in here ready to have a nice conversation about my cookbook and my life. You're the one who turned this into an interrogation about my trauma and my healing process. Don't put this on me. Drew throws her hands up. Everything I say, you twist. Everything I do, you interpret in the worst possible way. How am I supposed to have a conversation with someone who's determined to see me as the enemy? I didn't come in here seeing you as the enemy, Valerie says. But your behavior today has shown me who you really are. You're someone who thinks their way is the only way. You're someone who can't handle being challenged or contradicted. And you're someone who, when backed into a corner, lashes out with the exact kind of cruelty you claim to be against. Drew's face hardens. That's not who I am. You don't know me. You're right. I don't know you, Valerie agrees. But I know what I experienced here today, and I know that I won't be subjecting myself to this anymore. She turns to walk away, and Drew's voice comes out almost as a shout. So that's it? You're just going to leave? You're going to walk out in the middle of my show and make me look like the bad guy. Valerie stops and turns back one more time, and her voice is eerily calm. Drew, you made yourself look like the bad guy. I'm just refusing to participate in it anymore. And the fact that your concern right now is about how this makes you look rather than how you made me feel tells me everything I need to know. Of course, I care about how you feel, Drew protests. But I also care about my show and my reputation, and the fact that you're about to create a huge scandal by walking out. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to attack me, Valerie says. Maybe you should have considered the consequences of your words before you said them. But you didn't because you were so convinced that you were right and I was wrong, and now you're facing those consequences. Drew's producer has appeared at the side of the stage now, clearly trying to figure out how to handle this situation. Drew looks at him desperately, then back at Valerie. What do you want me to do? What can I possibly do to make this okay? Nothing, Valerie says simply. There's nothing you can do right now. Maybe in time, after you've really thought about what happened here, after you've examined your own behavior and motivations, maybe then we could have a conversation. But right now, I need to leave. Please don't do this, Drew says, and her voice is small now, almost childlike. Please don't make this a thing. Can't we just move on? Can't we talk about your cookbook like you wanted to? Valerie shakes her head. You can't unring a bell, Drew. You can't say what you said and then act like we can just pretend it didn't happen. I have too much respect for myself to sit here and fake smile my way through a conversation about recipes after you've just told the world that you think I'm a professional victim. I didn't say that, Drew says quickly. I didn't use those words. You didn't have to, Valerie responds. The meaning was clear. And honestly, the fact that you're still trying to parse your words and find some technicality that makes you less wrong, that's just more proof that you don't get it. You're not sorry for what you said. You're sorry that I'm reacting this way. Drew opens her mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. She looks lost, confused, like she genuinely doesn't understand how things spiraled so far out of control. The audience is frozen, watching this incredibly uncomfortable moment play out in real time. Valerie takes a breath, composing herself with visible effort. I came here today in good faith. I came here believing that we could have a nice, supportive conversation. But what I got instead was judgment disguised as curiosity and cruelty disguised as honesty. And I'm too old and too tired to pretend that's acceptable. She looks directly at Drew one last time. I hope you learn something from this. I hope you take some time to really think about how you approach these conversations and what you're actually trying to accomplish. Because if your goal is to connect with people and make them feel seen, you're failing. What you're actually doing is making people feel small. With that, Valerie turns and walks off the stage. The click of her shoes against the floor is the only sound in the stunned silence. Drew stands there, tears streaming down her face, looking out at her audience with an expression of complete devastation. Her mouth opens and closes several times, like she's trying to find words, but nothing comes. Finally, she turns to her producer and says something inaudible. He nods and signals to the crew. Drew looks back at where Valerie disappeared, then at the audience, then down at her hands.